Camera's running. Camera's running.
What's up? Come on in.
There you go. Microphone.
Oh, you're gonna put this on?
Yep.
Okay. All right. It's like you're gonna make some a film that then you have to edit. Jeez, was that a GoPro thing?
Yeah, I got my plan is to like.
Is that a little baby GoPro? Hero.
It's like an old GoPro.
Nice. Okay. Are we taping right now? Or are we on a hot mic?
We're on hot mics.
I remember I once. Am I being taped right now for real?
Well, the camera's on. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I'm gonna be careful what I say then.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we are in.
The Elaine de Kooning studio, connected to the Elaine de Kooning house, which is currently owned by Chris Byrne. Chris Byrne purchased the house circa 2008 from the artist Richmond Burton, who had owned the house for, I believe, about 10 years. And prior to Richmond Burton owning the house, it was owned by John Chamberlain, who bought it after Elaine de Kooning died. Elaine de Kooning bought the house in 1985 and added the studio to the house. We are now in the studio that Elaine de Kooning designed and built. And Chris Byrne runs an informal artist residency in the house. 1 or 2 residents a year, using the studio for 2 to 4 months.
So you're here for 2 months,
Correct. 7 weeks total.
and you're you geared up to make work here. And what you did is you prepped panels and planned paintings before you arrived. So you're hitting the ground running.
I did
basically.
not plan the paintings.
Oh.
I built and prepared the panels with an understanding that I could continue on with the series of paintings I've been working on for over 10 years now, sporadic, on and off, which I refer to as color key paintings. They're shape supports with color and form variations on the shapes, responding to the shapes in some ways.
Well, here in frame we have 4 paintings on the wall, and in preparing the panels, because you're hitting the ground running essentially. You're not prepping panels as you arrive here.
That's right.
So as you're prepping the panels, are you anticipating the designs I'm seeing on the wall so far, or maybe not? Because, no. Okay, so you're winging it with each one, but a circle or this very interesting, makes me think of a text bubble or something like this.
Interesting.
You know?
That's the first time I've thought of it that way.
Uh-huh.
Like it needs a little tail right here.
Yeah. Well, the sharp corner does it for me. But do you anticipate in some way?
Wait a second. I just want to fix this. Now that you've mentioned it, we're going to have to adjust it. I sort of do.
There you go. And here we have the Bezier curve of the taping that Aaron and I talked about earlier. You're watching the Bezier curve in action. Bezier meaning one point of the curve of the line is controlled, and the other, or held fast, and the other end of the line is controlled, creating a curve.
Yes. So you put this hand applies the tape, and this hand guides the tape. And I'm just going to go right over the top of. We're making a painting as we go. So I'm steering the tape with my right hand and applying it with the left hand. We'll come back down here, do a tight curve, which doesn't. This tape's a little too thick for that, but I'll go all the way down here.
There you go. Interesting. Wow, we have a whole new body of work here.
It's So anyway, this, and then I look at the drawing and I decide, nay.
Okay, an erasure.
Yeah. We'll leave the thought bubble for the moment. Okay. Anyway.
So, are you anticipating much? Your mind must jump a little bit, right? I mean, in the disc that we're seeing, these lines went down in the moment, as we've just seen you demonstrate here. When you prepared the canvas, you brought it here, put it on the wall. There was no ideas, no clouds.
Correct.
So do you do it by force, or there's just naturally you're walking in like a baby into?
I hung up I guess it's like there's 5 on that wall, 4 on this wall. So I hung up these 9 supports. I have like 4 more that I haven't put on the wall yet. They were all blank to begin with, and I sort of looked at them for a while. A few days went by, and then started acting on particular paintings based on impulses that I had. And the impulses, the general project of the color key paintings, working on a shape support, is my idea that the shape support itself has a certain character or insistence that a typical rectangle or square does not. Rectangles and squares are certainly shapes, but they are so common that we don't notice the quality of the shape unless it's very large or very attenuated. An extremely long horizontal rectangle or tall rectangle will get your attention because of the form itself. But in general, the standard, square or rectangle, we don't think about the perimeters or the shape of the support. Where as soon as you do something, make it a non-rectangle or square, which can be done as simply as you have a square, and you don't appreciate as a shape. As soon as you turn it on point, it becomes a shape. Because it's uncommon to see, it's not unheard of, but it is uncommon. And therefore, the shape has a certain insistence that gets your attention. And so then, when I look at them and I'm thinking about, well, what will I do on that particular shape? I'm responding to the form with the idea that the color line and form composition will have a certain insistence of its own, but usually be acknowledging the form that it's on. So if we go down here to this painting's finished, and so it occurred to me too that as I'm looking at this sort of, it's a cut ellipse. So if you see the rest of the form, it's just an ellipse that has been cut off. And so a tangent has been cut off. Now that's been made as sort of a foundation or a horizon, so that this shape seems to sort of sit down. And it started suggests, I don't know, some sort of portal or landscape referent. And so the forms that are within or on the support, defined by the color and the line, they respond to or sort of mirror or echo that form without being the form itself.
Mm-hmm. And this is a rule set for this piece alone, or for all the pieces?
For this piece, this is just like a response to that form.
I mean by that, the rule set is an echo or initiated by the shapeology of each piece. Exactly.
They all do that to some degree, a little greater or lesser degree. Like this painting, and this is actually, I worked on the other paintings that you've already seen before I did this painting, and this is in essence a very tight reproduction of an older painting done on the same form that I liked very much. It was one of the first ones that I made. I have this again. What is a square turned on point with a cut corner. So it's hypersymmetrical, but then asymmetrical because of the cut corner. And so it's somehow, in its symmetry, it's been compromised by cutting off that corner. And then the form that seems somewhat irregular and asymmetrical, that is the composition and the color, actually has a sort of logic to it. So these two triangles are identical in their size. Those triangles define where this line meets, which creates the implied square. This triangle meets the point of this triangle. The line, the implied line would meet this. This triangle would be the same as these triangles, and this triangle is the same as these, and it defines the width of the square, or the height of the square. So the distance cut halfway through, when you put this triangle, you repeat it here, it defines where the horizontal line is going to be, and therefore defines the height of these two squares.
I see.
And so all of this is like, it's self-generating in an irregular way that's, was curious to me. It doesn't, so what can seem intuitive or random or illogical has a certain logic to it. Should I show you the back of
the
back of the painting? So the back of the paintings, they're sort of, all of them are this way. They're a 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch piece of plywood that where the perimeter is defined, and then there's a cutaway just to make them lighter and also create a reveal in the back for easy hanging. It's mostly dropping some weight. And then there's a piece of 1/4 inch plywood that's affixed to the front. It's trim routed off to mirror the form and refine it. Then it's stretched with linen. I use the linen because it's more elastic than canvas, and so it allows you to turn corners. If you look at the corner of that, where you would normally have
it'll stretch over it.
You would have a fold. I can stretch it without making a fold, or significantly on significantly on those with an arc. You can bend, you can stretch the edges without having gathers. So it gets just like a smooth edge.
Yeah, nice detail.
Crafty. It's a crafty thing.
Well, I like the definition of artist fabrication that exceeds its construction. It is craft, as you said, but it's craft at a frontier, I would say. So,
In terms of what I was talking about, the logic of the composition, it's like the logic of these two cut ellipses that now bump together is that the significant moment is where they touch. And so how do you acknowledge that if you're going to paint on this? It's like some compositional or color event that acknowledges that touching point. And so right now, maybe it's going to be some sort of like Newman-like zip with, I'm just conjuring it, that with opposing, these two areas are black, these two areas are white. Maybe these are variations on gray, black and white here and here. I don't know yet, but I'm fairly certain this is going to be a sort of dividing point that defines the composition of each of the ellipses, but still the most tension will be right where they meet.
that's quite an inversion on Newman, right? Where his zips were about zero painting, 0 point, bringing things down to an ultimate maybe negation or a zeroing out of painting. The zip was in a way the last. An expression of the last, isn't it? Is that your understanding of Newman?
I'm trying to think. Like at one point, I like talked about Newman at the Menil collection in a sort of bumbling way, even though I'd studied for it, and now it's all lost on me. Like, what was
his paintings were
doing?
titled One Mint, were they? And then he had to do One Mint 2, One Mint 3,
One Mint was the first
5.
one that supposedly he made One Mint, which is like a very small painting. Again, I have a picture of myself standing in front of One Mint in MoMA.
And so they weren't the last paintings as Ryman's paintings were. His were singularities, right? They were, One Mint is a singularity. So in a way, it's kind of a foreshadowing the minimalism to come. That's my interpretation, right? What I'm trying to drive this at is by bringing the zip into this story, you're kind of flipping Newman in a way, because I see as the Newman thing is about its singularization is also, like I said, the flip of Ryman's last painting. It's a flip on it, but it's still an exclusionary kind of idea. But for you, bringing that zip as a unifying idea and an amplifying idea, the opposite of
But I think that's
the
what
zeroing
I think
out there.
that's what Newman zips do. You know, it's like it's an existential moment, a condensing of the experience to that singular, you know, vertical mark that sort of marks our own verticality as we stand.
Maybe I'm responding to the article that you sent me by email about who was the writer of that? Trying to remember.
I don't know.
If we can't remember, we'll cut this out. But
Okay. Cut. Just kidding.
a female writer, and she wrote about Newman and Ryman.
Oh, Annika Marie.
Annika Marie.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I'm connecting the two together.
Yeah.
Because the article was,
Yeah.
interesting. Anyway, I like the idea. It's a very cute idea for me, because it's taking and I could be completely wrong about how I'm constructing it, but taking the Newman as a device and flipping the Newman on his head, instead of singularity, a kind of that one-ment idea, it's bringing it out, because the support is not a rectilinear support.
Right.
And kind of this kissing of these two, you say touching, I say kissing.
Yeah, kissing is right.
Of these two.
Yeah. Something that is common to all of the work is the tension between symmetry and asymmetry, balance and imbalance. And so these are, at once they're irregularly stacked. This isn't sitting directly on top of this. So it would, if it were to come into play with gravity, it would roll off of this piece. It would fall. And so it's sort of in an improbable way, it's held in place, but then the line both connects them and also provides a sort of visual glue to, rebalance them. Same thing, the one that I was saying that with the cut corner before, it's like it has all of these things that cause it to go on to want to be imbalance and off balance.
So these two pieces together were not necessarily so when you arrived here.
No, I had for a long time. I had just this one hanging on the wall the first thing I did with it when I just had it hanging on the wall, I just looked at it for a while, and then I did this to it. And it was, initially it was going to be something like this. And I'm thinking and I'm looking at it, and then I actually define a rectangle in the center of this that would be sort of a portal, and maybe that'll be a dark color and deep space. And this was just going to, and as I looked at it for a while, then I started thinking about putting these together. I've done this before, not like this one, but where there's two supports that are touching somehow. And again, I'll send you pictures of a couple.
Yeah, we'll illustrate.
So
we'll illustrate pictures.
You can look, cut away from the video.
Well, one of the reasons why I asked you the first question about your anticipation of what you're going to do is that you have planned paintings out in the past, more than just murals, right? But you've planned paintings out in detail. I remember our conversations a while ago where you're talking about working it out on the computer, like working out using a program to sort of hash out variations.
Yeah, the word paintings that I've done those are entirely composed on the computer, and it's like the simple
colors are decided, strategies are narrowed down. So
color,
the painting
a starting
itself,
point for the color.
The painting was painted long before paint got wet on the canvas, right?
Yes and no. It's composed. I'll explain briefly again. That on the computer, I define a rectangle that matches the ratio of a support that I have in the studio. So if it's a 4 by 5 foot painting, I make a rectangle on the computer screen that matches that ratio. write a word into that, turn the word into, create outlines as it's known in the move in Illustrator, ungroup the word so that each letter is floating separately, and then start floating them, making them larger, smaller, moving them around the rectangle, juggling them as it were, until I arrive at a composition.
Well, you pre-plan these to the degree that you've created you've created the supports before you go in, so there's certain ideas already developing. Maybe, but you're not anticipating the lines or colors.
No, there aren't really. You know, it's like I might well have, you know, let me see if I have, like this ellipse, you know, it's like I made a painting that's sort of like this, you know, that has an ellipse sitting next to this, and you have this tension point again here, or the ellipse might sit like this. I might have done this, or, you know, I didn't know what I was, the ones that are still white on the wall, I don't know what I'm going to do with them. You know, this painting is, this is probably going to be, you know, as I've been talking about it, but the painting there that just has this sort of, you know, few loops of green tape on it, I did that, you know, just a quick drawing. I don't have necessarily any intention of carrying through with that drawing on that painting. And I didn't, the painting on that side that's now stripes, I just like, sort of akin to the cut corner painting that I mentioned. I've done stripe paintings like that before.
Right.
I'm just gonna make a stripe painting. You know, just kind of you have a moment in the studio when you just need to do something.
Right.